Thank you very much, Your Excellencies, ladies, gentlemen, and friends. This afternoon, we are privileged to join colleagues from Africa under the auspices of AbibiNsroma Foundation that has brought all of us together. And our job this afternoon is to listen to the voices of young people from Africa who are on the front line of addressing the climate crisis. We want to hear their stories, their work, their passion, and why they are at COP, and of course, their reflections here at COP. Without much ado, I would like to invite each of them to introduce themselves and their organizations and their work. So let me start with you, Nathan. You can use the microphone. Good.
Thank you so much. My name is Nathan Analem. I'm from Ghana. I work with an organization called Youth Opportunity and Transformation in Africa. And as the name suggests, we are in the forefront of youth advocacy and policy development, trying to influence policy that affect young people and how we can ensure that they meaningfully participate in processes like this. So one of the biggest reasons why we are here for the COP is to ensure that in all the key processes for climate justice and climate advocacy, young people are at the center of it. Young people are mainstreamed into it. We're all championing the cause of inclusivity. We want to make sure that young people, regardless of where they come from, regardless of the level in the communities where they belong, are involved in the entire processes. We also want to support young people to be able to have the right capacity such that when they are giving the platform, they know the right things to say. They're able to negotiate in important processes. They're able to influence the action for climate justice. Yeah.
Thank you very much. Next speaker, please.
Thank you so much. I am Friday Mbani Barirule. I coordinate Leke Development Foundation. I came from Nigeria, Niger Delta, Ogoni. Having said that, we work with local community people and we always do a local action, especially on climate issue. And basically, in the community where I came from, I run a community-based organization. And like I said, we work with community. Our work focus on issue of oil spillage and issue of gas flaring, because over 60 years today, when Shell came to our community, they continue extractivism and oil exploration, production, and it's ongoing even up till now. And the community have no benefit. The fishermen cannot even fish anymore. The farmers cannot farm anymore. We cannot keep silent and be crapping out for them. So what we now do now is to mobilize ourselves, building a network, building a coalition, building a movement, and to ensure that community have a voice. And we are pushing the voice now to international community like this COP where we are, where we're able to mobilize the voice of the farmers, because the more we have, the more farmers, the more food on the table. And not only that, but issue of climate change, especially this climate finance, we are looking at how we can leverage in climate finance for farmers, especially for farmers. So that's what we do in summary in Leke Development Foundation.
Thank you very much. Megami.
All right, thank you very much. My name is Maxwell Biganim. I am an ecosystem builder. I work with a number of organizations in Ghana, but for the purpose of this conversation, I'll highlight on one key project that I am working on, which is more of a grassroots-oriented project. It's called the Young Green Entrepreneurs Project, which focuses on creating a space and an ecosystem where young people can come up with innovative ideas, make business solutions as against the backdrop of climate conversation. So that's basically what we do. So we roll out calls for cohort basis where we actually get young people who have innovative ideas. We support them with training, capacity building, and also we create entry points for them to be able to understand why and what they do. So for the past 2 years, we have trained over 100 young people, and we have some that by virtue of the fact that they were very active, they've also been able to create more jobs in their communities as well. So yes, I think that's what I'll highlight on this panel, but as the conversation keeps going on, I would talk more about the other projects that I do. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I am Uncle Gregory Sesime from Ghana, and our foundation is basically based in Ho Volta region called VORAP Project International. We are centered on biodiversity conservation, and our focus areas are on agroforestry and beekeeping development to support livelihoods. So our activities are always looking at helping people to live in harmony with nature, and the youth are our focus because jobs are no longer existing as they used to be. We had to create them, and they must be sustainable, and the best alternatives were to use beekeeping and beekeeping development to promote this agenda. So we are open up to other opportunities which help shape the environment in the right direction we all want to. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, let me come to you, Nathan. You have been working with the Youth Opportunity and Transformation in Africa for some time now. What has been the successes and challenges in providing finance, skills development for young people? I do know that you're just coming back from Sierra Leone, where you held a number of meetings, and you've been doing so much on Africa in terms of this regard.
Yeah, thank you. So I would say that it's one of the reasons why these conversations are happening here is that young people have a lot of constraints when it comes to actively participating in some of these spaces. There's a project we run that's called the Africa Youth Partnership on Climate Change, where we are working in about 5 deep dive countries in West Africa. And the focus of it is to be able to equip young people who are involved in climate action. What we have strategically identified is that even before we start the local grassroots processes, there are a lot of challenges. So for example, the local conferences of youth, what we call the LCOIs, we struggle to organize them in Africa, to be specific. And one of the things that we've done in terms of direct finance is to be able to resource these countries that we've talked about to properly organize these LCOIs by giving them the financial resources to be able to do it through the kind funding of some of our partners. One of the big challenges that we realize is that because you want all the voices fused into the national youth statements, which are finally curated at the LCOIs, you want to increase participation. You want to bring young people from all over those. If you take, for example, Sierra Leone, who recently held their LCOI, they brought young people or young delegates from the Far East in Sierra Leone. And what they basically wanted to do was to make sure that the representation was really good. It was harmonized and every young person's voice was there. But the problem is capacity. How do you bring these people into the city of Freetown to actively engage in terms of resources? So what we are looking at doing is providing a template for how local conferences of youth should happen. And when they happen in these countries, then we're better able to connect it into the regional conference of youth, which is making that regional statement that we have, and then bringing it to COP. So for us, it's basically looking at how we can bridge the gap between capacity and also the support and resources that young people need to mobilize their voices and action some of these opportunities that they get at this platform. So basically, that's the type of work that we do around youth action in Africa.
Yeah, just to stay on you briefly, you spoke to me backstage that you are interested in hosting the African regional, COI. How, far have you made progress to that?
Yeah, so it's a bit of something that we have intentions about. It's not really about hosting it, but it's really about, making it done well so we can have proper reflection of all the African voices. In the African sub-region, what we've realized is that there are challenges harmonizing all the youth voices. A lot of good work is done, but it's being done in silos, and how can we make sure that these voices are brought together at a common platform? So ideally, it's the technical side of it that we are looking at. What's the opportunity for us to be able to sort of like provide a blueprint, a template that allows people to be able to follow the right processes in convening some of these these events. So it's more of a technical side of things because these things are resource intensive, but we are looking at what type of support we can give groups to make sure that they know how to start the process and how to be able to get the most value from organizing that process.
Thank you very much. Now, to you, my brother from Nigeria, it interests me that you are working with communities, and young people in farming. And if you follow the work of AbibiNsroma Foundation that convened this particular press conference, they have actually also been working with young people in the communities, fisherfolks and farmers. And I do know the challenges they face. What is the case in Nigeria in terms of winning young people into farming and fishing sector? What are the policies and what are the experiences that you have to share?
Well, thank you so much. Like I say, I'm a community person, and Obviously, if you ask me to share about challenging of the community, I can be here till even the evening of today. I will not be tired of sharing about it. Well, obviously, when we talk about community, we are looking at the structure of the community, the leadership of the community. In fact, for every successful project, their community entrance is very key for your project to be successful. And key challenging that we have been having is unknown to us, sometimes long time ago, our leaders, community leaders, they allowed, and without even a memorandum, without even a concrete agreement, allowed the share and other multinational oil companies to invest into the land. And as I speak to you, the community where I came from, Ogoni, you can Google it. It's one of the most 10 polluted community on the planet. The most 10 polluted community on the planet. The life expectancy of that region is currently standing at 41 years. So if you are 41 years, you know that, okay, you are one of the elderly people in the region. I'm not joking. This is a research work. I'm not joking about it. And not only that, but to build that a synergy, build that solidarity. When somebody, maybe one of the leaders is party of the oil companies, it becomes a communal, it results to a communal crisis again. And the farmers is being looked down on it. So if you call yourself a farmer and you're from my own community, they look at what I'm saying. So because what is selling now is the oil. The oil is selling, and everybody wants to pump into oil, including the young people. Young people try to engage themselves into what we call a coal fire. In English, artificial refinery. They begin to engage themselves into it, and it increase more effect of climate change. And sometimes I will let my people to know, because ignorance is a disease and it's key. Despite that in Africa, there's a proverb that I don't believe it. They say, dirty don't kill African man. So dirty don't kill. No, but to me, I don't believe in that. One of my messages will always be, anything that destroys the environment destroys life, direct and indirect. So we will not be keeping silent of issue of injustice, issue of land pollution, issue of soil pollution. In 2011, yeah, the UNEP came to our region, Ogoni, my community, and they conducted environmental impact assessment about the extractivism in the region. The report is online, it's very obvious. They say it's going to take 25 to 30 years for this environment to recover to its low-man potency where human beings can live. There's many community in that region, like Goe, Pe, and other communities, so many to mention. People have to, the federal government of Nigeria mounted a bimbo. Please back out from this community. It's highly polluted, highly contaminated. And people have to leave their own ancestral land. Where should they go to? No provision. And be lingering around like a climate refugee in the region. So the issue is compounded and linking to each other, because it also resulted to insecurity of food scarcity in the region. Many of our ladies presently now, young people, if you give them attention, confidentially, they will tell you, you see a lady of 35 years, 40 years, I'm no longer seeing my period. What's wrong? What is happening? There's also a research conducted by one of my partners, Kebekache for Women Development and Center. And the report stated that they conduct only in one community. They have to bring some experts, medical practitioners, and conduct a research in that community. And you see a presence of hydrocarbon in human blood. Presence of hydrocarbon. This is real. The UNEP report I was talking about, it says 25 to 30 years for it to recover. It also said that the people living in the region have been taking in 900 times of benzene in their drinking water. 900 times of benzene. We all know, scientists know, that benzene causes what? Cancer. So in 10 years coming, maybe we shall have a community of what? Cancer, a village of cancer.
Yes.
No, this is obviously true. So the challenges keep longing and longing. And even the fishermen and the farmers, that's what my people depend on as source of livelihood, you can longer get it. And to train your children, it becomes a so big challenge in the land. So
Comrade.
there's hunger and pain seriously in the land.
Yeah, I
Like
see you
can
have so
take
much to share, but for the want of time, we would want to hold this. But we'll come back to you. Colleagues, we have a very short time, so brevity will need to be called to action so that we can make much time. But we'll come back to you. Now, Benjamin, you have been working with young people, youth groups, and your work has centered on training. What do you say are the gaps, and the needs of young people when it comes to training? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 gaps that we need to address. That is why you are here at COP, and how is it progressing?
Okay, so for me, I think when it comes to training and development with young people, when you talk about young people, we have a spectrum of young people that we look at, the so-called literate and then illiterate. You realize that most often the whole conversation on training are designed just for the literate and leaving or cutting out the so-called unschooled. Let me just put it that way. Yeah, and I think it's really a challenge. And most of these conversations are also not in languages that people are really familiar with. So in a country like Ghana, you realize that we have over 100 languages, but one, it's let me say English is adopted, but English too is a schoolman's language. So what about those who are not in the school? So once the curriculum or whatever trainings are developed in English, it serves as a challenge. And even when you are translating to English, because we are limited in vocabulary, it also becomes a challenge. How then do you go into some communities and tell them about climate change in their local language? It becomes also a challenge. You might be saying something and then the interpreter will also be saying something different, communicating something different. So that's one of the challenges. And also, I think when it comes to training and development, now it's about bread and butter situation. Young people are looking at how they can, feed themselves. And then they would be asking you, this training you are going to train them, how is it going to help them? How is it going to tie them into a kind of employment? So one of the ways that we try to do is also to look at green transitions and the opportunities that it brings, and then to localize the content and also make it more practical. I'm working with another organization that we want to try and have a game-based learning on both Android and iOS that, most young people have access to phones and all that, so that by playing these games, they can be able to learn. So I think these are some of the challenges and then the innovations that we are working around.
Thank you very much, Benjamin. My brother, you have been working in agroforestry, and I love the focus of your work, harmony with nature, and that gives oxygen to the work of David Attenborough, that when we build harmony with nature, we will be able to address the crisis. Now, how do you convince young people about this topic, as hard as it is, harmony with nature?
Okay, thank you. So our focus basically is looking at how this agroforestry will be enticing to the youth. And everybody complains about the fact that...
Can you use the microphone?
Everybody complains about the fact that when you plant trees, it takes so many years to mature before they can see the return. But with our beekeeping development, we are able to get returns for the years invested in planting those trees. So by the help and great support of the SGF and other organizations, we were able to secure some grants to start a processing center for beekeeping and as well a biodiversity managing center, which is centered in Chito, Awudome, in the whole area. So with this, we know youths will be encouraged and enthused to go into beekeeping.
Thank you very much. We have been joined by a colleague from the COE network. I'd like her to introduce herself and then briefly tell us about her work. And then to answer the question that young people, when they hear climate change issues, coal work seems to be very far away from them. How do you relate the fight against climate change with coal? And how do you bring that to the doorsteps of leaders and young people?
Thank you. So I work with the Africa Just Transition Network, formerly called Africa Coal Network, and we work towards phasing out fossil fuel, coal, oil, and gas, working towards promoting of renewable energy, towards a just transition. Thanks for having me here. It's good to have a female on the panel. and the main thing that we actually look at the youth, and we just came from a session where we were talking about how Africa, for instance, has a very youthful population. The youth are the power, and we have the power to cause change. We've been working a lot with grassroots community members who have been faced by the effects and the impacts of climate change. Communities where there has been coal mining, the air has been polluted, people's lives are being lost, and we know that this has been an injustice to the people in these communities. And these communities mainly, because they are living in it, they have already started a fight already, because no one has to even tell them that there's something happening. And these are young people that are actually leading the community. So our network is made up of so far about 80 member organizations across 25 African countries. And then most of the people in our network are young people, mainly youth-driven, who believe that the power of the youth is with us now, and we have to use that power that we have. And so far, that's what we've been doing. We've been doing more of like actions. We've been doing like helping in terms of policies, campaign works, seeing what we can actually do to make sure that the system is going in the right direction, that people do not feel like there's injustice that is happening continuously. How do we change the capitalist economy to be a better economy for everyone to live in? And how do we get an Africa that we want, an Africa that we believe in, that indeed, like we said, we want an Africa that has the power in terms of economic power, but also economic power should not lead to the damage of people's livelihoods, their lands, and land grabbing, and people feeling not safe and insecure in the continent that we live in. So basically, what we are looking for is how can we make sure that we have a just transition when we talk about transitioning from one energy system to another energy system. And in terms of down to the grassroots, like gender balance as well, in terms of all the things that we do in terms of our transition process, are women included and are women considered? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Key of what she said is, what is the Africa that we want? And here I want to turn attention to you, colleagues from Africa who have joined us, to share with us what in Africa we want, a statement or your work. So please, if you want to take the floor, kindly show by hand. I give you the chance for you to make a statement in terms of what you do and your work. Okay, once you put yourself together, let me come back to the panel. And this will be your last statement before we leave this place. What is your takeaway from COP so far? I don't know, we are in week 1, early days yet, but what have you gathered so far, and what are you taking away from this first week?
I think it's just interesting. I have a very specific focus on youth-led action, right? So it's good to hear the world leaders put young people in the forefront in a lot of the statements that they made, which is really encouraging. So for me, my focus and interest has been around what's the focus around young people, what type of zeroing in are the world leaders doing for young people. So for me, key highlight for me has been some of the powerful statements that have come out about the role young people can play.
Powerful statement young people can play. To you, in 1 minute, please.
Thank you so much. My 1 minute is 1 minute.
Yes, in 1 minute, please.
Well, I always let people know, especially at this COP, that if you are pregnant, you don't need protection anymore. If your wife is already pregnant, what we need is adaptation, not mitigation. So there should be a lot of economic finance into this adaptation angle, so that people who have suffered direct impact, especially local people that do not even commit that sin. I sometimes wonder how you don't commit this, but you are paying for it. And even to the resources to go hospital, you don't even have it. And people that committed source is pretending as if they don't know. My brother, my sister, climate change is a silent killer disease. We need to act together. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Bengami.
Okay, so for me, I follow the negotiations as well on technology transfer and development. So what I am thinking is we need young people to be integral in the process of negotiation, which is very key. You realize the gap between the global south and the global north. The global north have young people in these rooms learning to take over. But what is happening at the global south? So I think we should be very intentional about it, and also look at the mechanism of implementation, which is technology, as very key in achieving our NDCs. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Yes, I will also say, with regards to what I have seen and learned at the COP right now, technology innovation must move hand in hand with the Sustainable Development Goals for us to be able to achieve a more safe and sustainable future.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. What I would say is I've heard a lot of people talking about, is there hope in this COP? Is there going to be some positive news? But a good thing I've heard from even most people that have given negative comments is they still have a positive mind. They are all hopeful, and they do believe that at the end of the COP next week, we'll have some good outcomes. So we remain hopeful as activists. We never give up. And so we remain hopeful, and we are hoping that we get some very good positive news next week. And finally, I would like to say in all discussions, please remember the grassroots community people. Don't forget the people on the ground. They are the ones going through this. They are the ones suffering the most. Let's not forget them. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the convening of AbibiNsroma press conference. We thank you for coming. Please a round of applause for our panelists. Thank you and have a great day. Great.